I don't know who Elon Musk honestly thinks he's fooling. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Entrepreneur. Welcome to my channel, and I want to say welcome once again to everyone from Auto Auctions Rebuilds. In fact, thanks to Randy's suggestion that a lot of you guys come over here, I saw this story and said, you know what, yeah, this would be a fun story to do. It's car related and it's technology related. Now, I don't know much about cars, to be perfectly frank. It was just funny because I talked a lot about rideshare for a while, but when it comes to cars themselves, the mechanics, how they work, I'm not really all that knowledgeable. I will fully admit that. I'm not all that knowledgeable. This is not a car channel. However, I do happen to like Tesla. I have stock in Tesla. I also have stock in Ford and, Toyota as well, but, whatever. Tesla's done very well for me in terms of the stock. And, I do know a little bit about, technology and spyware and things like that. So that's if I do know, which is why this little story caught my attention. I figured, hey, I've got a bunch of car fanatics. I don't say that degradingly. Car fanatics are cool. They are smart in ways that I will never be. But I have a lot of car fanatics who are now watching this channel. And it's like, yeah, let's talk about this little tiff that Elon Musk is having with China. And this is really like a double-edged sword all around, because have you ever had one of those situations where you just look from the outside and you're looking at two people arguing and you're trying to figure out which one is the good guy in the situation? I'm kind of feeling that way as I read this story. Because China has basically banned Tesla vehicles from roaming the streets in China because they're afraid that their cars are spying on people or could be used to spy on people. Now, technology spying on people is something that China would know a lot of things about, if we're being perfectly frank here. And their concerns for Tesla potentially spying in the country are valid to some extent. I mean, these cars are eating data, they're sending it back to Tesla, they're storing them. I mean, Tesla does want to be in an all-autonomous future, and the only way they can do that is to have road maps of all the roads, driving patterns of the vast majority of the people, especially the ones in Tesla vehicles. And Tesla does want to be the provider of the autonomous vehicle. I mean, much like how they opened the patents for their electric batteries and their charging stations because, they wanted their system to be the dominant one in the world, Tesla could do something very similar when it comes time to unleash autonomous vehicles, which I still don't think is going to happen in the next 5 years. Just throwing that out there. But Elon Musk is basically trying to bow down to China and say that, no, we're not using our cars to spy, even though, honestly, he's probably is using the cars to spy to a certain extent. So let's look at this article from The Street. Tesla technology and camera-laden electric cars are not roaming around spying on China or any other country, and would never provide the U.S. government with confidential data anyway because the risk of being shut down is too great. Now, I will say something about Tesla, is that I do believe that the data would not be given to the government. In fact, that's kind of what tech companies do. The big controversy with big tech and the government is that big tech has more information on the country and the people than the government does, and they are using that information to basically get the government to write laws that favor them. So, yeah, in terms of Tesla actually sharing information with the government, I don't think that would actually happen, and China clearly thinks very differently if they think that's something that an American company would do. It is worth more to the American companies to keep the data for themselves, but let's continue. Speaking via video link to the government-backed China Development Forum in Beijing, Tesla CEO Musk said that no U.S. or Chinese company would risk gathering sensitive or private data and then sharing it with their home government. Musk, that's not entirely true. The Chinese companies don't hesitate to do that. Granted, I don't think they would voluntarily share information with the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, which is the party that runs the Chinese government. But if the CCP comes in and says that they want that information, then they will provide it. And granted, the U.S. companies have to do that too if the U.S. government actually delivers a search warrant. If there's an investigation and they feel that data is something that the FBI or the CSI needs to view, then yes, they could subpoena that information and they could get it. The fact that Elon Musk is kind of playing this thing like, well, no U.S. or Chinese company would risk gathering sensitive private data and then sharing with their home government. That's not entirely true. The U.S. companies will not voluntarily give up that data to the government. It's worth more if they keep it themselves, but they would have to if they got subpoenaed. Chinese companies also wouldn't just willingly give it up, but if the CCP decides, hey, just give us the data. They don't need a search warrant. They don't need to subpoena it. They just have to give it. So I don't know what he's really talking about here, because these companies would give your data to the governments in certain circumstances. So he says, and I'm not even going to try to do an Elon Musk impression here, whether it's Chinese or U.S., the negative effects if a commercial company did engage in spying, the negative effects of that company would be extremely bad, Musk said over the weekend. The risk being shut down by China or any other government for spying is, quote, a very strong incentive for us to be very confidential. Well, yes, but you are still using your cars to record people's movements, how they drive, road maps. Again, all this stuff is being recorded. It's all being stored on a server somewhere. Tesla's bots are brilliant, and that's what China's worried about. Musk's assurance that customer data is fully protected followed the Chinese government's decision last week to restrict the use of Tesla cars by military personnel or employees of key state-owned companies, because obviously China doesn't want anyone, whether that information is going to be made available to the public or not, to be private. And by the way, for reasons that I listed before, China, the CCP, I should say, has very reasonable concerns about their officials using these Tesla cars, because, yeah, Musk is trying to assure them, like, no, we would not personally give you, the U.S. government, information on how CCP officials use their Teslas, where they drive, what they do with it. But again, if there is a Cold War that brews with China, which is looking more and more likely, then guess what? The U.S. government just has to subpoena that information, and then that information would need to be given up. So China is not entirely incorrect in feeling that these cars could give out sensitive information about military personnel or employees or key state-owned companies, especially since they themselves, with TikTok and pretty much any car they're making, they develop technology and they know what these things do. Their phones, how they store information, they know how this all works. And the only thing that they're overlooking is that the CCP can basically just ask for the information and the companies have to give it to them. In America, there has to be a little bit more of a game plan. Again, it has to be subpoenaed, it has to be warrants, but it could still be obtained, which is what China doesn't want at all. Let's see here. Beijing had acted out of concern that sensitive data such as images taken by the car's cameras could be sent to the U.S. People familiar with the matter told the Wall Street Journal, which first reported the story. Meantime, Cathie Wood's ARK Invest has come out with a new Wall Street high price target for Tesla that blows past even the staunchest Tesla supporters. ARK now expects Tesla to hit $3,000 a share by 2025, which would be nice. I mean, right now they're like at $650 when I checked this morning. So here's the interesting thing that's going on. China is pretty important to a lot of companies' success, and Tesla is no different. Yeah, Tesla's kind of become the cool car. But there's that Lucid car that, or Lucid, I'm probably messing up the name, that Randy showed me that could just easily take over the Tesla as being the go-to electric vehicle of choice by the wealthy and the privileged. Tesla does want to expand other countries. China is a huge country. There's a lot of rich people in China, and they want their cars out there. But these cars do record the streets. They do record what you do. They report driving patterns to Tesla. And while the Chinese government, or at least the CCP, I should say, not are mistaken in that Tesla would not willingly give that information to the government. The bottom line is they do have that information, and the government can subpoena it, which Musk is not being honest about. Granted, again, Musk has his reasons. He wants his cars to be sold in China. And China basically wants Tesla not to record anything. And again, it doesn't stop China from releasing products in America that will record us and share that information with the CCP. Like, that's perfectly fine from them, but they don't want it going the other way around because of all the atrocities and human rights violations that go on in China. I'm not going to get too political here, but let's just say I totally agree with another YouTuber that said the world needs to stop working with China and China needs to start working with the world. But anyway, I would like to know what all of you think about this news. Do you think Musk is right that this information that they'd be recording in China would be perfectly safe with Tesla? Do you think China has a point? Is there even a good guy in this area? Because, Musk isn't necessarily standing up for human rights or anything. He just wants to sell his car. And the Chinese government, in most cases, I would say, yeah, I totally agree. You shouldn't have your country spied on, except this country spies on us and other countries all the time. So, like I said, is there a good guy in this situation? I would like to know, though. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.